Hello everyone, my name is Karen and I am a tea leaf reader based in Melbourne. I wanted to do a little talk today about life as a professional reader and just some of the do's and don'ts that I've experienced as a professional reader. I see a lot of live sessions of readers on all sorts of social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. But what I'm also seeing is some of these readers extremely inexperienced in how to deal with people. And I'm a reader who sees people one-on-one, not an online reader, and there's nothing against that. But I just thought, let's have a chat about some real-life experiences as a reader. A lot of the readers that I'm seeing online will say, we give you the God's honest truth. And look, all readers should do, without lies. You can only present to the client what's in front of you, of what you've got to tell them. And that's great. But half the battle is in how you deliver the message. And that's where I'm seeing some of these online readers fail greatly in how they deliver the message. So I'll get to that further down. So that's great if you jump online and you do some readings, and it's a great way to increase your audience and your platform and so on. But when you are dealing with a real life person situation, when they are opposite you in front, and some of these people that come, their emotions are in such a fragile state. And that is where you have to tread extremely carefully as a reader, because that client is putting their faith, their trust in you 100% that you are going to help them and being able to guide them. But as a professional reader, you do have responsibilities, and this is where I really want to have a chat about being responsible for these people and their delicate situations that they have in their life. So sometimes when you get a client, they'll come and they can be sitting there, and the moment they sit, they start crying, and before they can even get a sentence out. This is where you have to stop everything and make that client feel 100% comfortable, just to make sure that they get in a peaceful state before you commence the reading. You are a spiritual guidance person. You are offering them spiritual advice, whether you use cards, teacups, stone, bones, charms, runes, no matter what your tool is. You are there to give them spiritual guidance. And they're going to discuss a lot of things that are really private and really, really confidential. And so you've got to make them feel safe, private, that what you discuss with them is 100% safe in the vault of silence. Now, there is a borderline here, and that's when it comes down to the safety of the person, and especially if there is children involved. A good reader will have a whole barrage of emergency numbers, platforms, referrals, and so on. So it's really, really important that you know when a person needs a reading as opposed to needing a professional advisor in another area, be it legal, sheltering, children's services, police, lawyers, and so on. So always make sure you've got a network of numbers of who you can refer them on to. And the big thing there is know when to stop and draw the line. Don't just take someone's money because you have that opportunity to gain a client. Know the difference, and it is really, really important that you know the difference. Reading to a point is counselling to a certain level, but you've also got to remember you are not a counsellor unless you have counselling background and credentials. I mean in proper courses and diplomas. Not just label yourself as a holistic counsellor or spiritual counsellor, because the word counsellor is a really, really important word. A little story is a few years ago I actually met someone, and when I was chatting to them and asked them what do they do, and they announced, oh, I'm a holistic counsellor. And I was really excited, and I thought, oh, wonderful, I'm meeting a holistic counsellor. But when I started to go through the conversation and I questioned where did they get their qualifications, at what degree did they do, what did they go through Mental Health Academy or the Professional Institute of Counsellors and so on, they actually hadn't done any course at all. They'd only called themselves a holistic counsellor because they deal in the divination and spirit world, and they advise people. But you can't just pluck out that word out of thin air and call yourself a holistic counsellor or spiritual counsellor. So please really avoid doing that unless you do have a counselling degree of some sort or a diploma in it. So make sure you can back that up, because if something goes wrong and you're responsible for that person, how are you going to feel? If that person has taken their own life or they have made ridiculous moves and strategies in their life because you've called yourself a counsellor when you really don't have the experience of giving that person the proper counselling advice. So it is, do it with caution. That's a big thing. But like I said, always have a hotline or a booklet of some numbers and different facilities and refer them on. So what you can do. Another hot topic with a lot of readers I see is, and I get it myself as well, is where people will ask about children and pregnancies and fertilities. These really are such a personal type reading. You can't do these in, I don't believe myself, my opinion, in a online live platform. They are questions that really need to be dealt in a one-on-one personal situation. But many readers will not do children and pregnancy and fertility readings, because you've got to remember, we're a reader. We're not God, we're not doctors, we're not the medical practitioners. So usually anything to do with children and pregnancies is on a big no-go zone with many, many readers. But if you are a reader that isn't afraid to look at that, and again, I do this myself, but only in a person-to-person situation, because I'm not going to do that in a live session. So other topics, like I said, for ethical reasons, are things like legal matters, pregnancy. Again, most times as a reader you can give guidelines, but you've always got to make sure the client is aware that you are a reader, number one. There's another real sore point with me when I see readers, and it just makes me cringe, is when I see them telling a client, even in live platform, and they'll pull out the secret lover type cards or charms and whatnot. And in Tea Reading, Mermaid's a classic one about, is there a third party, or the triangle and that, where they'll go and tell the person, oh, yep, your husband's got a hot wild lover, and yep, they're pulling out a tarot, yep, it's someone he's having an affair with at work, and so on. It just makes me cringe, because 90% of the time that person doesn't have a lover. And I know this from years and years and years of experience, is that quite often third party is an interference of some sort in that relationship. And that can be the workaholic partner who's working 16-hour days to provide financial things for their wife and children. They want their wife to have the best car and the best of clothes and house and so on. So we call them a work widow. And that's because the person is having long hours and they're not having no affair at all. And I've seen so many partners blamed of having an affair when it's nothing whatsoever to do with it. The other ones is some of the clients who might be mad sports fans, where they want to go with the mates all weekend with football and racing cars and so on. They're not having wild affairs, people. So third-party interference can be work, it can be sport, it can be friends, where they take the friends because they don't want to hang around grizzly kids or something all weekend, Or it can even be an interfering mother-in-law where they're sticking their nose in your relationship. So it's things like that. So be cautious of what seed you sow into your client's eyes, because whatever tool you use, the client is going to listen to what you say. So always be careful and mindful of what seed you plant into their mind, because that is something very, very important. And like I said, 90% of the time, it's not a lover. It's, like I said, most times it's third-party interference, and that's where you see it happen over and over. I also get kicks, and like I said, I'm not having a rant, I'm just telling you my experience and my personal experiences and I've seen sessions where live people will do so much spell casting, and that's a hot topic. And look, I'm all for spell casting, and particularly in the white spell casting, where it's wishes and spells for good things, for abundance, or great things to happen, love and so on. And like I do sigils, and that's what I did, and created a sigil maker, and they're also used part of spell casting. But I've seen readers online where they're grabbing candles, dollar from the dollar store, and they're carving someone's name in it, and they're basically rubbing cooking oil over it to say, I'm giving you a spell to gain money or for your lover to come back to you. And they're doing it in a 2-minute platform. Then they're asking, donate to me, and people are paying so much money to these $1 store candle spellcasters because they're desperate for answers and solutions. And look, sometimes it's setting the intention, and that's really, really good. But true Wiccan practices and people who are really heavily involved into the spell casting know it's a lot more than carving someone's name in a candle. And they're investing in all sorts of the different herbs and crystals and anointed oils and candles of certain types and waxes and colours and so on. So it's not the dollar store candle that's going to give you the win the lottery spells. So if you're looking at spell casting, again, go to someone who is in the know. Go to someone who has an amazing reputation and an amazing success rate. Don't go and get a money abundance spell or something like that from someone who doesn't have 2 pennies to rub together, because why would you go and buy or donate money to someone who's selling you a spell who their own life is a train wreck? Or the couch surfing from one to another to another. So look at the person who's also selling you the product. So it's like if you went to a hairdresser and the hairdresser looked like me, and I'm gone bald and I hardly have any hair. Yes, some people would look at it and think it's a fashion statement, but you wouldn't go to a hairdresser where you thought, oh my God, they look like they put their finger in a light socket, and you don't like what they wear or present themselves. So think about something similar. Would you buy a spell from somebody who doesn't have the reputation in ordering to do so? So you've also got to know with spell casting how to protect yourself, because again, real people who are doing spell work know how to protect and stop what we call hitchhikers. And hitchhikers in spell casting is any of the bad spirits that attach. And we don't want bad spirit entering the realm when you're wanting an abundant spell casting. So again, go to reputable people who know what they're doing when it comes to spell work. So, like I said, it's look at the reader, look at their write-ups, look at their credentials, and make sure you know what you're buying. So it is something really, really important. There's also been, since pandemic, I've really noticed it big time. People will go and buy a deck of tarot cards and hang up the shingle and say, hey, I'm a reader. And that's because there's been so much unemployment, loss of jobs, and everyone's jumping on the bandwagon and thinking this is an easy task, it's an easy job. I can tell you from my experience, it is not an easy job. And I'm an empath, so when people come to see me, and if they are down, I take on their down. If they are in tears, I feel the tears. So that's not something you can jump on and say, hey, I'm a reader, because a lot of them are not taking on the responsibilities, as I've said before, about being an ethical and responsible reader. So again, if you're choosing a reader for you, make sure they've done the hard yards. Make sure also they've got good referrals, reviews, that type of thing. As a client, you're not a fool, so make sure you work out who is legitimate and who is not. So it's an area, like I said, COVID has brought out a lot of bad things and a lot of bad experiences, and it's a real tough one because it's given a lot of the genuine readers a really, really bad rap in the industry. And those that have been around for many, many years, you've invested so much time, energy, courses, tools, and so on. And then that comes to another topic about charges. I'd love $1 for every time I see someone's comment in open reading platforms where they say, but you've got a gift, why are you charging for it? You're entitled to charge for your services, and a lot of readers are really scared to do this. But just have a stop and think, how many books have you bought? How many card decks, how many tools, how many hours have you spent perfecting your craft? Courses, so on, equipment, and all the things that you've put in. So don't think that your craft is not deserving to charge a fee, because readings are an energy exchange. And you're exchanging your energy, your experience to that client, and that client is deserving to pay you. For example, like I'm actually sitting in my tea room right now, and this is an entire room that I have set up in my house, and this is a sacred room, and it's full of Lord knows how many hundreds of dollars worth of teacups and crystals, and Lord knows. And again, they're all investment that I have paid in order to make the experience for my sitter to be a nice one, to be a good one, because I don't want them to come and me to sit there at a coffee table with the smoke hanging out my mouth and not give them the real warmth, it's the arms around you experience, which is what it should be to embrace your client. So don't be afraid to put a fee on it. So what else can I waffle on about while I'm having a waffle? And you actually get to see me this time. Yeah, probably have touched on every topic. So they were, like I said, I just felt that it's something I needed to get on here and have a good chat to you about my experiences as a reader to pass on to all the budding readers that are out there, but also to you guys as clients. So look for value for money, look for credentials. Readers, be ready to hand over that client. Don't just take their money and run. Take some responsibility is one of the big things. And I was at a convention a few years ago. It was a very large convention, and there was actually a guest speaker on stage, and I nearly slid off my chair under the table. I couldn't believe what came out of her mouth when she had explained to a client in dismay who would come repeatedly about a relationship that was failing, and she was there. It says, that's all right, love, I'll take your money and run, and I'll tell you the same thing. Don't do that. Please don't do that as a professional reader. So, well, I hope you all have a great day, and I thought I'd pop on and yes, maybe it's a rant, but mainly think about ethical, responsible life as a reader. But also, from a client point of view, make sure you choose someone who suits you. Don't just go to them because they are cheap. Don't just go to someone and think they can give me the instant answers, because as a reader, we can't give you the lotto numbers. I wish we could, because if we could do that, we'd probably be doing it to ourselves first and foremost. So have a great day, and I hope you get something out of this little conversation. Take from it what you will, what you don't, put it aside. Bye for now.